lot to talk about today. The Grammys just announced their classical nominees, and there are some awesome surprises in there. A brand new opera is set to premiere and bring a 12th century composer back into the spotlight. And there is someone searching for a missing violin tied to a Holocaust story, which is kind of wild. So here's what's going on. Welcome to the Classical Recap. If you've ever felt like classical music news is scattered or hard to keep up with, trust me, I get it. As a classical guitarist myself, I have always wished there was one place I can get everything quickly, clearly, and without the gatekeeping. And so that's what this series is all about. Each episode, I'm going to break down the biggest and most interesting things happening in the classical world in just a few minutes. Alright, let's jump in. Headline number 1. The 68th Grammy Awards classical music nominees are out, and as expected, big names like Yo-Yo Ma and Gustavo Dudamel made the list, but I'm also excited to see that more nominations highlighting composers of color are there as well. Names like Samuel Coleridge Taylor from the early 1900s, contemporary Cuban composer Daniel Leon, and Mexican composer Gabriela Ortiz. And it's really great to see the global stage expanding to include a wider range of voices. So if you want to support these composers, I'll have their nominated recordings linked below. In other news, composer Sarah Kirkland Snider, known for her song cycle Penelope, just did an NPR interview about her new opera Hildegard, premiering at the LA Opera. And so Hildegard is an opera exploring the life of the 12th century composer Hildegard von Bingen. Snider shares the inspiration behind the work and some really powerful thoughts about discovering your strengths as a musician. It's a really great interview, so I'll link that below too. Honestly, Sarah Snider is a reminder that musical storytelling across all centuries is becoming more inclusive. So if you want to support her work, make sure to check out that link. Now, if we could just get some classical guitar into that orchestra pit, I wouldn't complain. Now let's talk about the missing violin from the Holocaust. The Strand published an article about a search for a violin belonging to a Hélène Berr, who's a Holocaust victim, whose diary was actually published and became a bestseller in France in 2008. And her violin was sold through several auctions, and somehow it ended up with an unknown buyer. And it wasn't advertised as being hers while it was being sold, so there's no reason or indication for us to assume that the current owner even knows the history behind the violin or that it belonged to Hélène. Helene's niece is the one leading the search, and she isn't even asking for the violin back. She just simply wants to know who's playing it today and who's keeping the history behind it alive. So, if you have a family violin with a mysterious origin, like, we all do, then who knows, you might be playing a piece of history. So you might want to check out that full story below too. Breaking news, Johann Sebastian Bach was spotted in a literal sword fight with one of his students. His student's name was Bach, which I know, not confusing at all, right? But our Bach apparently called his student a nanny goat bassoonist. And the story goes, Bach hit Bach with a stick, and so Bach pulled out a sword, because, stick equals sword, right? And why was Bach even carrying a sword, man? Anyway, that's our Soundpost moment. Let's get back to modern day news. For this week's Guitar Spotlight, we are highlighting the Volterra Project Trio and their newest record, the Parole in Musica, featuring guitarist Antigone Goni, Luca Isolari, and Martin van den Bemden. This trio is absolutely incredible. You need to listen to them. Their newest album includes everything from Bernstein's West Side Story to Ravel's beautifully refined Ma Mère Laoi, arranged for guitar trio. They're also performing in New Arizona and New Mexico soon, so if you're nearby, then you should definitely check them out. I'll link their website below so you can check out everything. Alright, time for our quick fire headlines. Every week I'm going to give you 3 headlines that you can look into if you're really interested. And as always, the links to everything will be down below. So the first one is the LA Phil is dedicating the iconic Hollywood Bowl stage to John Williams, with performances conducted by Dudamel fellow Miguel Sepulveda. The LSO, or the London Symphony Orchestra, just reopened St. Luke's after an $8 million renovation. It's a historic venue and now refreshed for modern audiences. And Olivia Jacquong-Hugh, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that, has been announced as the newest member of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra cello section. A huge congratulations to her, and I will link her page down below as well. Alright, that wraps up this episode of the Classical Recap. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date on everything happening in the classical music world, then make sure to like the video, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. We've got some really fun stories lined up and I can't wait to share them with you. I'll see you next time.